Welcome to Red Wolf Roundtable. I'm your host, Zach Ruppel, and joining me today is Morgan Jackson. Today we're going to be diving into the world of ASU and professional sports. Red Wolf Roundtable starts right now. Arkansas State volleyball team swept Georgia Southern 3-0 for the 7th straight win on senior night last Friday at First National Bank Arena in Jonesboro. It's kind of weird saying that one. It used to be the Convocation Center. Clarissa May led the team with 21 kills, while Ellie Watkins handed out 40 assists and the 7 kills on 7 attempts. Tatum Ticknor had 13 digs to lead the team and also 2 aces. This was actually a really impressive game to watch. I had the pleasure of sitting in on the one on the 27th. I missed the one on the 28th, but Arkansas State's volleyball team looks really, really solid this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They have, I believe her name's Uke.
Yes.
Yes, and I got to watch her play, and I even got to interview her for one of my packages. And, you know, she's an incredible player, and she's the beast. That's the only way to say it.
I've seen this team's really built to go do things. The only problem I've seen is the endurance in later rounds. So if this team can figure it out and get a team that can go for 3 to 5 sets solid as they do in the first 2 sets, then their team looks to do good things as they travel to San Marco, Texas to face Texas State Friday. November 3rd, you got to tune in at 6:30. Fans can follow the team on Twitter and Instagram at AStateVB, along with liking the Arkansas State University volleyball page on Facebook for the latest news and updates regarding the team. Now on to soccer with my man Morgan Jackson.
The Arkansas State women's soccer team has earned the number 4 seed in this week's Sun Belt Conference Soccer Championship and will take on number 5 Little Rock Wednesday, November 5th at 10 a.m., which is today, at the Foley Sports Tourism Complex in Foley, Alabama. The number 4 seed is the highest ever for the Red Wolf soccer program and marks the 2nd straight season that the team has competed in the conference tournament under the direction of third-year head coach Brian Dooley. With a victory, Arkansas State will advance to the semifinals for the 3rd time in its history and will take on the winner of number 1 South Alabama and number 8 Appalachian State on Friday, November 3rd. So unfortunately, earlier this morning, our ladies lost in penalties. It was 1-1, lost, I believe, 3-1 on penalties. But given that, they definitely have a lot to take away from this season. I believe they had around 7 or 8 actual starters out of their starting 11 that were freshmen. Of course, with Sarah Sodoma, who she was named to an all-conference this year, and she had more than a handful of goals, more than a handful of assists, and she was too fast for anybody to keep up with.
Yeah, I've heard great things about our soccer team this year, and especially with them earning the number 4 spot in that tournament. It's unfortunate to know that their tournament was cut short, but we'll hope that they can recover it next season and hopefully get the same place and go a little farther in the tournament.
Oh, yeah, I'd fully expect for them to be able to do that. They actually beat number 1 South Alabama in the regular season.
Yeah, so good things for Arkansas State volleyball, or Arkansas State soccer, my apologies. You can watch the rest of the championship on ESPN3.com and the Watch ESPN app. For the latest on all A-State women's soccer, like the Arkansas State soccer page on Facebook, and follow them on Twitter at A-State Soccer. When we come back, we'll be talking football and ASU and their win over New Mexico. Just keep it here.
Adopting a new pet is a rewarding experience. And Shelter Pets makes super pets. Your new best friend will steal your heart, bring you happiness, and enrich your life for years to come. You can make a difference in the life of an animal. Adopt and bring home a shelter pet today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
That's slow. That's slow. Look, he's blushing.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable. I'm your host, Zach Rupel, and alongside me, of course, is Morgan Jackson. We've got some awesome Arkansas State football followed up this weekend when they went to New Mexico State to play them on the road. It actually proved to be a really impressive game. Our team was full-fledged. Of course, the score was a little bit closer than what the stat sheets show, but it was a fairly impressive game to watch, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Again, another outstanding performance by Justice Hansen. He's kind of just, ever since his injury, I feel like he's come back stronger, and kind of like he, of course, hopefully he doesn't get injured again.
Yeah, no
that'd
kidding,
be
no
awful.
kidding.
But it's like he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, kind of, and is going that extra mile or whatever to get like the wins and the extra, yards and stuff.
In football terms, I think you'd say go the extra yard, I think. But something I'm really impressed with is to see how many rushing yards we were able to get in this game.
Yep.
We recorded 120 rushing yards, which is good because all on this show I've been talking about how Arkansas State, we've been talking about how they need to get that run game started going, and they have done that. They started spreading the ball out to rushers. We had 3 rushers with over 30 yards. One of them was Justice Hansen and designed run plays, but still spreading that ball out with the rushers, it's an important key for this Arkansas State football team if they want to find success, and of course our passing stats staying as explosive as they are with 297 yards passing. And the reason I bring the stats into play with the score is because you look at the stat sheet for New Mexico, and you have 35 yards rushing on the game. That's how many they had.
Yep.
And so you'd think, looking, even with their 221 pass yards, the field position and their ability to score points without racking up massive numbers on the stat sheet really is what kept them close in this ball game throughout it. But, of course, Arkansas State able to pull out that win. Another thing that was really impressive, along with the running backs, is how effective the pass game was. You have 6 passers, all with plus 30 yards receptions. So, like you were talking, Justice Hansen coming back from this injury, he's been better than ever. He's been hitting his targets. He's been cleaner, and he's been spreading that ball around with a lot of love for all his receivers out there.
Yeah, and I feel like that, he knows that that's what they need to do. Of course, they rely on his passing a lot. They also rely on his running, obviously, as you said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just him being a dual-threat quarterback is what they need. And, of course, him spreading the ball around his receivers and whatnot, they know what to do, too.
Yes. But Arkansas State will look to play, I believe it is the Appalachian State. We go to play, South Alabama. We play South Alabama on Saturday, November 11th. The game time and television for the game will be announced at a later date, but we hope to see our Arkansas State team take home the win. Next, we're going to jump into college football, which has been interesting. As I'm sure most of us are aware, the college football playoffs have released their poll, and shockingly, we have a number 1 seed I don't think anybody was really expecting in the Georgia Bulldogs.
Very shocking.
Yeah, how do you feel about Georgia 1, Alabama 2?
So, of course, there's no arguing that Georgia's a good, football team this year. They're always a good football team, of course. But whenever you look at Alabama, I don't think anybody says, oh, they're a number 2 football team, And there's reports that I believe it was just based on the Notre Dame game, and that's what put them ahead of Alabama. But personally, I don't feel that that's enough to. Put
and
them
I
in.
think Alabama may be the better team, but Nick Saban released in a statement. He says he's actually thankful for the lower ranking because he loves having something to push his players with. If they would have ranked number 1, of course, we're number 1, no one can touch us. But now they're 2. So that makes also the SEC championship game really interesting because it's looking like it's going to be Georgia, Alabama for that battle in Atlanta and that shiny new stadium for the SEC championship. So it'll be kind of the playoff committee will get a chance to see possibly one of the playoff brackets because I still stand beside one of my original thoughts is that we're going to see 2 teams from the SEC in this college playoff this year. You agree with me in that statement?
I definitely agree. Yeah, I honestly, if it was the other way and Alabama was 1 and Georgia was 2, I mean, I don't think I would have a problem with it. I could see it, but it's just that, Alabama's such a strong force, and I mean, even 3 is Clemson, I believe,
Yep.
and 4 is Notre
Or
Dame.
3 is Notre Dame
Yeah,
and
3
4
is
is
Notre-
Clemson.
Okay, so
Yes.
I mean, even that I can get behind that. But I mean, the SEC is kind of dominating this year.
Mhm.
Not necessarily all the teams.
Not all the teams, but those two
But
big
yes,
teams are representing
yes,
us well.
But yeah, the 2 best teams in the SEC are doing it big and doing it very,
Yes.
very well. So, yeah.
All right, so, and then we're going to upgrade one step further out of college football and take us to the NFL. And, of course, the trade deadline just came and passed.
Yes.
But before we get to the trade deadline, this last weekend of football action was pretty awesome. The most shocking thing for me was the Dolphins getting shut out 40-0 by the Ravens.
Yeah.
That was not fun to watch. If you were a Dolphins fan, we apologize to all Dolphins fans. But the other teams out there seem pretty legit. You saw a few teams finally catching their stride in the season.
I definitely. So I got to personally see the Ravens that blew out to the Dolphins. That was a crazy game. But there's definitely teams that are. It's around the halfway point for the season, or a little bit over. And there's definitely teams that are catching their strides. You have the Eagles, who are
Yeah, the Eagles have been very dominant.
Yeah, they're sprinting at this point. And then you have the Cowboys. They're kind of sorry for the Cowboys fans. They're still kind of trying to find their footing.
Yeah.
Especially with all the stuff that
And of course,
just
Ezekiel
recently
Elliott
happened.
is suspended.
Yeah,
now,
they're gonna.
yes.
It's gonna be kind of tough, but there's a lot of teams that could make it or break it in the next 2 or 3 games.
And of course, Kansas City has kept their steam going up. Pittsburgh seems to be maybe finding a little bit of ground. Of course, they have their nice bye week coming up this weekend, so anything they haven't worked out, they should be able to work out in the bye week. And the Broncos, even with a rough loss, still kind of finding their footing. Of course, they just named Brock Osweiler quarterback instead of Trevor Siemian. But on to trade deadlines, news is Tom Brady's now the only quarterback on the Patriots roster.
Yeah, I saw that. So I personally don't know much about the quarterback they traded. I believe his name's
Garoppolo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tough name. I personally don't know anything about him or what all came with the trade, but as good as Tom Brady, as good as Captain America is, you gotta have a backup. I mean, I don't know.
Look at Dallas a few years ago. They had
Yeah.
Tony Romo, which he's not comparable to Tom Brady in any sense, but they had him on the roster, and then all it takes is one good hit from a strong D lineman or linebacker, and then what are you going to do? Of course, there's talks that they may bring in another quarterback from another team eventually, but right now they're open. So it'll be something to see. And, of course, you mentioned Garoppolo. He went to the 49ers, which could be equally good or bad for Garoppolo. He's had a lot of stock because he had those 2 games where Tom Brady sit out, and he did amazing things with a Patriots team.
Yeah.
Now he's with the 49ers, and so a lot of statisticians and personally myself are worried he's playing for the second worst team in the NFL. So he is either going to have a boosted portfolio because he was able to win some games and get that offense going, or he's going to have a weakened portfolio just because he doesn't have any weapons around him. That 49ers team is still in a very big state of rebuilding, especially at their receiving core. But speaking of trades up, Jay Ajayi is now with the dominant Eagles instead of the blown-out Dolphins.
Yes, I think he's getting obviously the better end of the trade. I don't necessarily know how much the Eagles actually.
They gave up a 4th-round draft pick, I believe, for next season to get him.
So I mean, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, of course, now it's looking like the Eagles are going to go all the way to the Super Bowl and continue to go for a Super Bowl win. Moving on to another professional sport that I know you enjoy is the NBA.
Yes. So right now, as the NBA stands, I think that there's teams that are doing well, obviously, and there are teams that aren't doing very well. And the way that the teams are kind of set up right now, in that respect, is the teams that are doing well, we didn't expect them to do well. And the teams that aren't doing well, we expected them to do well. So, for example, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's a rough.
Yeah,
rough
they
losing streak.
for some reason have 0 defense.
Yes.
And then the Warriors are sitting around, 500. We expected them to be, 9 games in?
Yeah, I
8 games
expected them
in?
to be blowing people out.
Yeah, and
think
I mean,
most
with the
people
teams
did.
that they have, they should be. And then you have teams like not necessarily the Lakers, but like the Magic, who are just, going insane out there on the court. And, you have like the Sixers and even the Celtics they lost Gordon
Yeah,
Hayward,
that's
of course.
unfortunate. But they've kind of rebuilt from
Yeah,
that,
and
they're doing all
they're
right.
doing well, but it's just kind of like a wonky start to the season, I guess.
Yeah, and of course, you mentioned the Magic. They top the East right now, and the Clippers top the West with the Grizzlies, and the Celtics are with the Magic in the East as well. So it's been interesting. You say these teams, and I don't think any would have counted a lot of these teams as playoff contenders. Of course, you had to talk about the Celtics beforehand, and a few people were hanging on for a Clippers maybe, but these teams now are showing that, hey, maybe they can make a run for it.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland and Golden State will work out problems that they have and get something figured out, but it's definitely a shocking start to hear, especially LeBron's comments on the Cavaliers' downside.
Yeah. LeBron, he always seems to have kind of like a slow start, I guess. But, I mean, it's just the way he is. And, of course, he always finds a way to work things out. Golden State, I don't think they've had problems before, so it'll be interesting to see how they work things out. But I have no doubt that they will. But it is kind of cool to see teams like the Celtics or, I mean, even the Magic in the East. It's good to see them playing well, and it's good to see, like, how all the trades are going. Of course, the West is kind of balanced out now.
Yep.
It's kind of like I was talking to you about this before the show. All the Eastern, like, stars moved to the West, and all the Western stars, or not Western stars, but like Western, like, kind of
Middle
almost
ground.
stars, moved to the East, so it kind of balanced everything out.
Yeah.
So, like, now all the West has all these power teams. You have OKC, and, of course, still have Golden State, and then Houston's, I mean, Chris Paul's out.
Yeah.
But you have, all these teams, and you have, like, Timberwolves, and then in the East you have all these players that can challenge LeBron and now challenge Kyrie and the Celtics. And, it's just interesting to see how it's all going to play out. Of course, there's 70-some-odd games left to play.
Still a lot of basketball season. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's nice to see a balanced NBA. And speaking of balanced things, we're going to a Game 7 in baseball. So moving on to the MLB, an exciting Game 7. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the World Series, but this one has been one for the record book. We had a pitcher's duel in Game 1. We've had home run derbies in other games. And so, of course, it makes sense that this one would go to a Game 7. We've got a pitcher's battle, I'm sure, coming up because both Kershaw and Astros pitcher, Dallas Keuchel, that's his last name, Dallas Keuchel, they'll both be open to pitch for their teams. So I'm sure we'll see both of them on the mound. And, of course, we have the Grand Slam duo on the Astros side of Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa. So it'll be interesting to see if the Dodgers pitching can shut down those Grand Slam hitters. And they've mentioned that the Dallas pitchers, a lot of their relief pitchers and pitchers that aren't supposed to throw have been throwing a lot of pitches in these games. So it'll be interesting to see if those pitchers have enough arm left to get them through a Game 7. And personally, I'm hoping for an Astros victory.
Yeah, I think most of the people that I've talked to are hoping for an Astros victory. I think that the reason that, they're getting all those extra pitches is it's just kind of everybody's hitting everything, Like, it was not last game, but the last game.
Yes.
So Game 5, it was, 11-13, 12-13, something like that. So, of course, Kershaw he's been getting a lot of hits on his throws. And, of course, the Astros have been hitting everything that he's been throwing. So, it's going to be interesting to see if, they can change everything, because this one's for all the marbles.
Yes.
So,
this one counts.
if they're going to change something, they're going to have to.
All right. Who do you think's going to pull it out in the end, though, Game 7?
Personally, I'm hoping for Houston.
Yep.
I'm not, that good at baseball, so so I'm not for sure, but I'm going to take Houston.
All right, so you've had this little hot take break for who we think is going to win the World Series. Both of us pulling for the Astros, but you got to come back after the break for our more on-the-edge hot takes when we come back from the break.
And we're out. You got plans?
You bet. $50 million Americans struggle with hunger, but we can do something about it.
Excuse me. What's going on?
Dinner. Please join me in helping put food on their tables. Together, we can feed America.
You guys keep going. I'm gonna get the plates.
Plates?
Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
And welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable. I'm Zach Ruppel. This is Morgan Jackson. And as promised, we've got some extremely hot takes coming up. And being the gentleman that I am, I will let our guest host Morgan Jackson take it off first. What's your hot take, sir?
So first of all, I'd just like to say, in my friend group and on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, I kind of have like these hot takes. Like I'm just kind of known for it. I kind of make everybody mad with them and whatnot. But for today, my hot take is going to be so if the playoffs start today, the NBA playoffs start today, Golden State and Cleveland would miss it. Okay. And I'm going to say this for a couple reasons. Golden State, like we said previously, I don't know what's going on with them right now, but I don't think it'll be worked out in the next 5 games. Obviously, I think that Houston is too strong. I think that the Clippers have it all worked out. And I think that, the Timberwolves won it more than any other team in the West. And then as for Cleveland, every season they seem to, take forever to get the ball rolling. And they're kind of started that early this season. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and I'm not exactly sure who they play next, but I don't think that they have what it takes to beat, like a hot Magic team or even the Celtics that, are playing with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. And it's not a chip on the shoulder that, like, they don't know what's going on. Like, they know that they're playing with a chip on their shoulder because one of their star key components is out.
Mm-hmm. So do you think further on down the road, perhaps to expand on your hot take, when we get to the championship time, do you see a championship involving Golden State and Cleveland?
I think if there's going to be one of them, I think it will be Cleveland. Personally, I have not liked the way the Golden State looked from the start of the season. Even from the first game, I said Houston's going to win. And I think that, if you watch Houston, not necessarily the Clippers, they kind of, every season they should be able to win it, and for whatever reason they get to playoffs and don't. But I think that right now, if it went through, I think the championship, the finals would be Houston and Cleveland, and I think that Houston would win.
Oh, so you got that could be almost a more interesting hot take with Houston bringing home a
there
title.
You go,
in this
yeah.
one. My hot take is going to jump sports, and we're going to go to college football. Okay. I love football. It's my passion. I love it so much, and I love playoffs. I love that they added the playoffs. I wish that they would grow the playoffs to more teams, maybe get a little 8 team playoff action. It'd be fun to watch. But my hot take is even with the rankings, with Georgia at 1 and Alabama at 2, even though I think Alabama should be at 1, we'll see when it comes SEC championship time, is that 1, Alabama is going to go undefeated and bring home a national championship title, which can be a hot take to some people who have doubts about Alabama's power. I'm just saying no team's come close to beating them yet, so that's all I'm saying. And also that Alabama and Georgia both make it into the playoff bracket, and if they do, they'll go in at 1 and 2, which means they won't play each other in the opening round.
Put them on opposite sides.
Which means we'll have an SEC championship rematch as the National Football Championship. How you like that, all you ACC fans out there? Yeah, that's right. I'm talking SEC's bringing home the bacon this year. But what do you think about that hot take right there?
So personally, I like Alabama. I don't think anybody's going to beat them this season. But I'm not sure about the score for the Georgia-Notre Dame game. But that would put them on the same side, right? Like if Georgia was 2, would that put them with Notre Dame?
It would put them with Notre Dame, yes.
Okay, yes. So I think that with a rematch, of course, rematches are a little
the Achilles heel of playoff teams.
And so, it might end up to an SEC tournament, but or SEC final. But I think that it would make for a much more interesting, bracket on the side if there were more rematches and whatnot.
Yeah, it's just, following these football teams and following this crazy college football season, which it always seems to be. It's almost like regular season college football is worse than March Madness in basketball.
Yeah.
You've seen teams get upset. And, of course, Clemson's still sitting at number 4, so we went easy on them with their loss to Syracuse early on. But, I mean, the whole college bracket has been a mess to follow with teams getting upset and lost. Teams we thought were going to be dominant have fallen off. I mean, my home team, Volunteers, they're looking to be probably the worst team in the East, as much as I hate to admit it. So it's definitely been an interesting college football season, but I still think that Alabama, they've run through rough opponents. They've gone through it. Of course, they still got the Iron Bowl to play Auburn, which is going to be a worse game for them because they notoriously had trouble in that Iron Bowl with Auburn for some reason.
Yep.
So it'll be a really interesting shot to know if they can beat Auburn, but I think they'll handle it. It'll be cool to see Georgia. They don't have a lot of competition in the East, so they should be able to ride out the rest of the East sitting on top comfortably. Go into that SEC championship game, play Alabama, see how it goes. Now, what would be really scary is if Georgia gets into that championship game and gets blown out.
Yeah.
That would be freaky because then, those college football playoff people, they'd be like, well, we can't have 2 teams in there, and Georgia can't compete with Alabama, so we'll take them out. We'll put some other team in,
Yep.
which would be weird because, it might be, are they going to rank them lower on the polls just for that one game, or are they going to put a 1, 3, 4, 5 instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed in the playoffs, which would be an interesting debate. Either way, college football is shaping up to be an interesting playground for these college football analysts. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel like, with all the kind of, heated debate, and there's reports that, it was one of the most heated debates that they've ever had about college football, trying to rank these teams for the playoffs or leading into the playoffs this year. I feel like it's only going to get, harder to rank them. Teams are only going to get better. Teams are just going to jump up and down. So I feel like it's going to be, a little bit more interesting the next few years, especially this year, but the next few years. And it'll be interesting to see, if they do change the playoff kind of setup or, how it works and how they put the rankings out for whenever teams do. Like, imagine if there was 2 Alabamas.
Oh, Lord, that'd be scary
So like
for every team involved.
Yeah, so I think, it'll be interesting to see, kind of how they work it out.
Yeah, and of course, to talk a little bit more about college football, Alabama has to play LSU, so that'll be an interesting road game for them. LSU always with the opportunity for an upset. And then Georgia takes on South Carolina, which South Carolina showed some promise in the East. They've definitely improved, and so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Georgia will have a problem with them, but it'll definitely be an interesting game to watch. Other games around the college football, Wisconsin plays Indiana. Indiana not being ranked in the college football playoff poll.
What's Wisconsin's in there?
But Wisconsin is 9, and I think Indiana has a chance for an upset on Wisconsin.
Yep.
Of course,
there you go.
I personally am not the biggest follower of Wisconsin. I always root for the upsets and the underdogs. Bigger games to watch, Michigan State versus Penn State. Penn State losing. They were sitting at 2 and then took that rough loss.
Tough loss.
To them, Washington plays Stanford, 25 and a 21. NC State and Clemson, which will be interesting to see Clemson
will be a good game.
handle off their rival, which is a big ACC rival right there. NC State came so close last year. It came down to 1 missed field goal. So I know that kicker is out for redemption in this Clemson game if he gets a chance. And, of course, an in-state battle in Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Oklahoma at 5, Oklahoma State at 11. But that's all we got time to. I wish we could talk about college football all day, and I'm sure you wish we could talk about NBA all day.
Yeah.
But that's all we've got for Red Wolf Roundtable today. I hope you enjoyed the show. I've been Zach Ruppel, and this has been Morgan Jackson to my left. And I have really enjoyed time with you today, Morgan Jackson. It's been awesome to host. Of course, Wesley could not make the show today, so Morgan Jackson stepped up, our resident highlight den. Tune in to Red Wolf Roundtable Game Day to see Morgan Jackson back in the highlight den. And I will be hosting alongside Wesley. We'll be at the Troy game on December 2nd to see if our hometown Red Wolves can keep fighting off the Sun Belt opponents. And, of course, I think we will, and I think we'll be in the Sun Belt Championship. All us Red Wolves hoping for a championship instead of a co-championship. But you can follow this show, Red Wolf Roundtable, at Twitter, at RedWolfRT. I've been Zach Ruppel. This is Morgan Jackson, and we'll see you next time on Red Wolf Roundtable.